So I'm a huge movie fan, man. I like to discuss different things about film, okay? One interesting topic that I've come across lately is with the female action star, okay? So I've had conversation with a couple of different people. And I tell them that I find movies where a woman goes up there and beats 4 or 5 men or multiple men to be phony to me, okay? And you know what they always say? Well, dude, it's phony when you see a man beating 4 or 5 men. That's not realistic either. I gotta disagree with that. Now I'm going to tell you why I have a problem with that, okay? Look, dude, I have seen a man beat up multiple men before in real life. I have seen guys beat up 3 guys. One guy beat up 4 or 5 guys. I've seen it. I'm sure you can go online right now and punch up something on YouTube and find situations where you got one guy fighting 3 guys or 4 or 5 guys or more. Okay? Listen, I'm 5'8". Maybe it's a stretch to say I'm 5'9". I've beaten 5 guys by myself before. I've done that. Okay? I've done it twice. Okay? A couple of times, I've had to fight more than 5 guys, 6, 7 guys. One time I had to fight 10 guys. And I'm not saying I won those fights. Actually, I was lucky that those fights got stopped because I probably would have gotten killed if they had went on for a period of time. However, I got in some good hits in the fights, okay? I'm not saying I won every fight. I've gotten knocked out before, okay? But I've had to do, all throughout my life, I've had to fight multiple dudes. Despite not being that big of a guy and being 5'8", I will get 3, 4, and 5 guys who will attack me, okay? And I've won my fair share of those fights. So when you tell me that, oh, well, you said a woman can't beat 5 men, then it's not realistic for a man to beat 5 men. That's a big problem for me, man, because here's the thing. That's not comparable. The average man is stronger than the average woman. Always is, always will be. You give me 10 men and 10 women and let them fight, 7 of those fights, 7 to 8 of those fights gonna be won by them dudes. Okay, you can't compare that, man. That's not even an equal comparison. If you said, let me say this: a good comparison would be a woman beating up 5 women. That would be a good comparison because there are men who have beaten up multiple men before. Like I said, I've beaten up 5 guys by myself. Okay, it's not a good comparison, and here's the problem. It's something called the suspension of disbelief, okay? What is the suspension of disbelief? The suspension of disbelief is a willingness of a reader to ignore critical thinking in order to enjoy a story. All fiction needs a suspension of disbelief because by definition, these stories aren't real, okay? Now, here's the problem. When I'm watching a movie and I'm seeing a guy go around, he's beating up multiple guys. Okay, maybe if you add up all these people, he probably beats 50 guys. That's not entirely realistic. But guess what? If you got a scene where this dude's beating 5 people, later on he's beating 5 or 6 guys, later on he's beating 7, 8 guys, that might be a little unrealistic. Case in point, like Bruce Lee here, all right? Him beating up all these guys in this scene. But here's the thing. I can kind of ignore that because I know as a man, men are stronger than women, and it is not inconceivable that a man might be able to beat, one guy can beat 3 guys by himself, because I've seen that before. I've seen a guy beat up 4 or 5 guys by himself. If you take a guy who's supposed to be a master martial artist like Bruce Lee, I can have the suspension of disbelief that somebody who's supposed to be a master martial artist, a male, could beat up 10 guys, okay? Maybe that's not the case, but here's the thing. As a man, I've gotten into fights with 3 or 4 or 5 guys, and I've seen other guys do it. I've never in my life seen a woman beat 5 men. Okay, I've never seen that. Occasionally I've seen a woman beat 1 guy, but usually when I see a man fight a woman fight, I'd say 90% of the time the dude wins that fight. If he's seriously fighting, he wins that fight. What would be comparable if you had a movie and a woman was beating up 5 women, but the movies won't do that. They won't do it because they want to. It's this weird thing going on in our society where we want men and women to change places. We want men to be more soft and sensitive, and we want women to be strong and masculine. Okay, so they won't put a movie in there where you got a woman fighting mostly men, And at the end of the movie, maybe she's fighting a guy too and she struggles with them. That would make more sense to me. That's how I would do a female action movie. But they won't do that. They want these women to be men. They want you to see a woman punching a man who's 100 pounds bigger than her, and for that man to go flying. You know what I'm saying? It's phony, man. And the thing that's crazy though, you actually could do this very easy. If you really want to make movies where you had a woman fighting men, you could have this woman use her intelligence, okay? Have her sit back and have to outsmart these dudes or come up with different ways to get over that strength imbalance, okay? The difference in strength. You ever watched a movie called Mulan? And I'm not talking about the live action one. If you ever watched the original animated movie, excuse me, in the animated film, she had to do these tests to get into the military, okay? But she had to sit up and think of ways to do those tests because a lot of those tests relied on physical strength. So she had to use her smarts to figure out how to do those tests. That's what I would do in my movies if I did action movies with women. So let's say you got this scene where a woman has to beat 5 men. How would you do that scene? Okay, you ask me. Here's what I would do. I would have this woman hanging out with one of these guys pretending to be his girlfriend. Maybe she has some alcohol, okay? And she puts something in the alcohol, and all these 5 dudes drink the alcohol. And guess what? She drugs them. So now she has to get up there and fight these dudes and beat the crap out of them, but they're all drugged and stumbling around. So hey, it makes sense that she could win that fight. Well, let's say like this scene here with Bruce Lee. Let's say instead of Bruce Lee walking in this school beating these guys up, let's say you had a woman doing this. Let's say she said some food in there that was drugged or something like that, okay? She drugged the food or she snuck in there and put something in their food and then was beating those guys up. What? You know, that would have worked for that would have worked for the suspension of disbelief, okay? Or you got a scene, let's say, where she's fighting a bunch of dudes, but she doesn't fight them all at one time. Let's say she gets up and she catches one guy, by himself and walks up there while his back is turned and stabs him in the neck with a knife, okay? Or she catches another guy while he's sleeping and throws an axe in his head, okay? She's killing dudes when they sleep. She's killing dudes when they're not paying attention, okay? She's catching these dudes while they doing something else, just walking up, stabbing them real quick. You can see that. Or let's say she has a taser. And then you're saying, okay, well, what if she has a weapon? She could have a weapon in those scenes. And that's what a lot of these guys bring up. Here's the problem with weapons, dude. A lot of weapons require physical strength. Look at it this way. Let's say I got a 12-year-old child fighting a 30-year-old man. Now, I'm not saying that there are some 12-year-old kids who are abnormally strong. 9 times out of 10, though, that 30-year-old man is going to win that fight. So now I take a 12-year-old boy and I give him, a 2x4. Or no, let's give a 12-year-old boy, let's give him a pipe. Now, do you think this 12-year-old boy is going to be able to beat this 30-year-old man because I gave him a pipe? Why not? Because what's going to happen here? That grown man is just going to grab that pipe out of his hand and hit him with it, okay? Because it's despite having that weapon, his strength, okay? Weapons rely on strength, okay? Strength and speed and all that good stuff. It's one of the reasons why 9 times out of 10, if you had a woman who was a swordsman, or let's say a knight, okay? A man is always going to have an advantage over her, even if she is trained. And I know the next argument, what if that woman is trained very well? Okay, if you went back and had a female knight and a male knight, and they're both equally trained, guess what? That man is still going to have an advantage, okay? I'm not saying women wouldn't win sometimes, but even putting a weapon in their hands, it does not mean they're going to be invincible. Yeah, it's just weird, dude, because even with a weapon, weapons require physical strength. Throwing an axe, shooting an arrow, those require a lot of physical strength, okay? Now, even a weapon wouldn't totally, a melee weapon, okay, a blunt object or a melee weapon wouldn't totally change that, all right? But even then, if you did it smart, when you had this woman fighting some dudes, and she caught them off guard and maybe used a weapon. But after she hits like 2 guys with that weapon, you know, they're going to pick up something for her. It just changes the whole scene. You can do it, but you have to be smart with it. Okay? And when you see a woman picking up a hammer or a weapon and knocking dudes out, that's still phony. Okay? It messes up the suspension of disbelief. Okay? You have to do it smart. You can make a female action star who doesn't have any special abilities. You can have her beating men if you did it smart, okay? But also, I'll tell you one thing that I would also do if I had the money to make these movies. I would just go the Wonder Woman route, okay? Wonder Woman in the comic books, when I was reading them, you found out she was a demigod, okay? So, that's it. You now, there's no problems because she's not an average human being. Or I would have this woman, I would say, okay, she's a mutant. She's blessed by God, okay? She has God's special blessing. You read the Bible, a lot of those men and the women in the Bible had God's special blessing. So they could go out there and kill people. They could go out there and do things. And you don't sit there and people who read the Bible say, that's phony. No, because you understand these people are not normal. They have supernatural help from the supreme being of the universe, okay? That's what I would do if I made a movie. I would say this woman had a special blessing from God, okay? Or she's a demigod, or she has some type of special ability. That's why she can go beat 10 guys. Or you know what? I do something that's like I said, it's kind of unusual. I would have her fighting mostly women. And I would only have her fighting like maybe 1 or 2 guys. Very few guys. You could do that too. But you can make these movies, and you can make them where they're more realistic, and they're not taking people out of the movie. Whenever I see a woman just walk up there and straight up walk up and mollywop 5 dudes, that takes me out of the picture, man. So, you know, hey, just my opinion on there. Just my thoughts. And, you know, anybody watches the video, let me know what you think.